Hello, everyone, and welcome. We got a great presentation for you today, and we're going to talk about overcoming adversities. Life is a journey filled with peaks and valleys, opportunities and setbacks, triumphs and hardships. For young adults embarking on the path to adulthood, this reality can sometimes feel overwhelming. It is easy to be discouraged by life's challenges, but it's precisely in facing these difficulties that the seeds of growth, resilience, and success are planted. Today's interview with this esteemed author seeks to inspire young adults to not just survive adversity, but to rise above it and flourish no matter the situation. Adversity is an inevitable part of the human experience. It can take many forms: financial struggles, academic pressure, health challenges, or personal loss. While it may seem unfair or daunting, adversity serves an important purpose. It tests our character, sharpens our abilities, and forces us to confront our own strengths and weaknesses. Um, Young adults and older adults, guess what? You are not alone. Every successful individual, whether a celebrated artist, a groundbreaking scientist, or a visionary entrepreneur, has battled their own hardships. These trials are universal, and the ability to navigate them is what sets apart those who achieve their goals from those who falter. Today, we're going to speak to a very talented individual who has overcome his own diversities, dispelled the excuses, and become a successful entrepreneur, author, strategic thinker, and speaker. Calvin Purnell Jr. is an engaging speaker with his title business CP Talks. And without further ado, he has authored three impactful books in his Polish series, all of which you can get on Amazon, by the way. They are A Young Professional's Guide for Success, Preparing for What's Next, the Resilience chapters. And his work focuses on empowering professionals to succeed and navigate life's challenges with confidence. As a strategic thinking partner, Calvin collaborates with organizations and individuals to develop innovative strategies that foster growth, resilience, and leadership. His relatable style and passion for mentorship inspire audiences to unlock their potential and embrace change. Calvin's insight and expertise make him a sought after speaker and thought leader in professional development, committed to helping others polish their skills and prepare for a successful future. So, welcome, Calvin, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy life to impart some wisdom to our younger generation. Welcome,
Thank
Calvin.
you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your organization and everyone who's listening. Just thank you for joining and tuning in.
Thank you so much. So we're gonna just kind of dive right into the first question here. So tell us a little bit about you and walk us through your journey. So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced early on?
Okay, sure. So I guess the biggest challenge I faced is having to deal with incarceration. Outside of that, I've had challenges, but that one was the biggest and early on in my life. And that happened when I was about 27 years old. I was about 27 years old, 28 years old when I was incarcerated. And that changed my life. It flipped everything upside down for me during that time. But before that, I was pretty good. I was a professional. I was a young man in my professional career of information technology, and I was about 8 years into my career when the incarceration happened. So that was an extreme turntable for me. But with the grace of God and mercy and the blessings and prayers, it gave me opportunity to start over once I came home and to get my life back on track and focus on my family, focus on my career. Not only that, focus on myself and get myself in a better position.
Okay, all right, good. So what led to your incarceration, if you like to share, and how did that experience shape your perspective on life and success?
Sure. So I lost my temper. I let I let someone get the best of me, and it just put me in a position where I wasn't thinking. and I ended up discharging a firearm, and that led to a laundry list of charges, but I ended up getting a felony conviction with aggravated assault. So that's pretty much what led to that situation.
Okay, okay. So what was your lowest point and what kept you going through it?
Okay, so that day that it happened, October 13th, 2002, was my lowest point. That
Mhm.
was, it was weird because I woke up that morning just feeling different, couldn't put my finger on what was going on with myself. I wasn't fully in tune with understanding my thoughts and putting myself in a better position to be able to navigate my way out of the spiral that I was going through, that mental spiral that I was going through that day. And
Mhm.
it was really, I felt like I had an out of body experience when I actually pulled the trigger. And getting arrested that day in front of my house, in front of my kids, that was the lowest point that I've ever experienced throughout my
Yeah.
entire process of being incarcerated, well, getting arrested, being incarcerated, and then even coming home. I've been in a pretty good space spiritually since
Mhm.
then.
Mhm.
And, with a lot of help, a lot of prayer has been very helpful. And even to the point where I put myself in anger management therapy because I
Yeah.
recognized there were some issues that I had that I did not address,
Mhm.
issues that I didn't realize that I had. I didn't realize where my anger issues started and never took the time to try to figure it out until one particular time I said, you know what, I need to go to therapy. And
Yeah.
when I found a therapist that specialized in anger management, it was a win-win for me because he also specialized in mindfulness and awareness, which is a practice that I didn't know anything about at that time. But
Mhm.
going to the therapist, he introduced me to the practice. He said he thought that I would be a good candidate for mindfulness and awareness, and asked if I was interested in understanding more about it. So working with the therapist, he walked me through what the process is like, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And to this day, I still practice that. I actually entered into anger management therapy in 2006. And I exited in 2011, which kind of felt like my therapist was breaking up with me. um, but he felt as though he gave me enough tools to use.
Mhm.
And at this point, I need to go out and practice using those tools and not
Right.
using my therapy sessions every week as a crutch to come in and just unload.
I
Um,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, so it was probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to me by, him saying, "Hey, now it's time for you to go out and put this into practice."
Kind of like cutting the umbilical cord. Yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely get it. A lot of companies actually do mindfulness
yeah,
seminars and things like that. I know my company that I work for, Navy Federal, they actually have mindfulness sessions and different tutorials and things like that. So it's definitely a growing practice for a lot of corporate America. It's definitely
yeah,
needed. So definitely
yeah,
get it. So,
yeah.
how did you stay mentally strong and focused when everything around you just felt stacked against you? Was there a moment of influence, maybe a person, book, realization?
Yeah, so because of my spiritual background, that was a big factor in this entire process. So, but even before I had to turn myself in to spend the time in prison, I was mentally prepared. I knew what I was facing, and from the time that I knew what I was facing to the time that I had to turn myself in, I was at peace. Even during the time of being incarcerated, I was at peace. And from that, just going into prayer, reading the Bible, having Bible scriptures that I meditated on, that was helpful. But I also had a great support system in my family. They've
Yeah,
been tremendous throughout that entire process. And even to this day, they still are. My family has always been a strong support system
yeah,
for me. Um,
absolutely.
yeah. And as far as books are concerned, there was the Bible, number one. I read that when I was incarcerated. I read the Bible from beginning to end. And that made me aware of a lot. It made me aware of understanding the term of there's nothing new under the sun because of a lot of the stories and the parables that are in the Bible relates to things that are going on today.
Yeah,
And it gave me opportunity to connect some dots and see where these particular stories are relative to what I've experienced in life and what I've heard other people experience in life, and it will continue throughout life. And
right.
I'm grateful for having the Bible by my side that entire time and just being able to read it from beginning to end with, the goal of it was just to get an understanding of life. So that way, even though I was incarcerated and I was in prison, I mentally I wasn't there. My body was there, but mentally I wasn't there, and that was
Yeah.
helpful. Another book that was helpful was The Perfect Purpose Driven Life. So my wife, who was my fiance at the time, we were reading that book together, and we would get on whenever I had opportunities to call her. We would talk through, what we've read for that particular day, and that
Yeah.
was helpful as well. Just having that support system of my family was a huge deal for me.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Well, how did you get started as an entrepreneur or author?
So I really enjoyed writing short stories just for fun. It was, just something that I did just to pass the time. And as time went on, I ended up writing a book. I think it was from like 2001 up until about 2006, but I never published it. I had it edited, but what I was dealing with from my spiritual perspective at that time, God said, this isn't the book for you to publish. So I basically just shoved it under the bed and said, okay, I'm just going to step away from it. And I will still continue to write short stories here and there just for fun. Never really took it serious as far as being a published author. But in 2012, I started working for a company called FiberLink, which is now a company that IBM acquired. And I recognized I was the oldest person on the team. And as I was paying attention to some of the younger team members, I could tell that they just didn't have like the grooming and mentorship that I've experienced. So God spoke to me and said, "Hey, Calvin, now's the time to write the book." And at that point, I'm like, "What book?" So I really had to go into prayer and get a clear understanding of what God was trying to lead me to. And He mentioned the book on mentorship for young professionals. So that's where that journey started. So I started writing that book in 2013, and from 2013 to 2016, I was able to get it published. And it came out April 1st, 2016, Polished a Young Professional's Guide for Success.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, when I first started writing that book, it was called A Young Man's Guide for Success. And as I was writing it, going through my prayer time with God, writing it because I needed God to give me strict instructions on what to do because I've never really taken the time to write from a self-help perspective. It was more of a fictional perspective and, worldly type of topics. So
Hmm.
at this point, writing this book from a self-help perspective and understanding that this is going to be geared towards people who are professionals and people who are aspiring to be professionals, that I had to be very structured and strategic in that messaging. So God gave me exactly what I needed to write and told me to take a look back at my life and reflect on the experiences that I've had to pour into the book so that way it could be relatable information. And what I really took from writing that book was what I wanted from writing that book was for it to be something that a middle school student will be able to pick up, read, and relate
Hmm.
to it. And
Yeah.
it kind of reminded me of the book Who Moved My Cheese. So that
Oh,
book
I
is an
read
easy
that.
read. Yeah, and I wanted my book to be an easy read as well. I believe Who Moved My Cheese is geared towards, they said even a third grader can pick it up and read it and relate. So that's what I was aiming for. And when the book came out, it was, well, before the book came out, it was a long book. It was extremely long. But then I'm like, young professionals aren't going to want to read a 300-page book on professional development and personal
Right.
development. So I condensed it down to a little over 100 pages and decided to make it a multi-part book. So that's where the second book, Preparing for What's Next, came into play. So I was actually writing two books at the same time, the first
Yeah.
one and the second. So that's how that journey started for me.
Yeah. That makes sense, and actually, that's a great idea. That definitely works out because yeah, just like me, I read books, but if I see big thick ones, it's like, maybe I'll try a different one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like smaller books.
Yeah.
So how do you handle fear and self-doubt now?
So that comes with a lot of work and a lot of practice, because I deal with that every day. Getting prepared for this call, every speaking engagement that I have, I'm extremely nervous. I get fearful. I kind of reflect back and revert back to my fourth grade self, where I had to recite a poem in front of my class, and when it was my turn to recite the poem, I froze. So that's when I recognized at a young age that I don't like speaking in front of people in large crowds. But um, I just work through it. That's one of the things that I have to do because it was a charge for me and a direction for me from God, because one of the things I had to go through writing this book was get the opportunity to learn how to be a public speaker. So I entered
Mhm.
Toastmasters International to learn how to be a public speaker. And
Mhm.
in that group, I was taught that the fear never goes away, right? The fear of speaking never goes away. It always surfaces. There's no rhyme or reason on how you can combat it. The only way you can combat it is just to throw yourself at it, and that's what I do. But
Yeah.
from a different perspective of how I handle fear and self-doubt, I do a lot of work in the morning by myself, silent during my silent time. I get on the men's prayer call every morning with my church, just so that way I can get the blood covering over me before I start my day. And then I get up and I get my day started for myself. I read my Bible scripture for the day. I have particular scriptures that I read. I have a devotional that I read. I go into my prayer time, and I also take the time to reflect on my thoughts. Like, how am I feeling today? Even though it's the early start of the day, I want to know what is going on inside of my brain, what's in my heart, so that way I
Yeah.
can understand what is it that I need to help push me past some of those fears that I may have, some of those self-doubt, some of that negative self-talk that may be coming in as well. And it also
Right.
puts me in a space where I say, you know what? I'm going to take the time to breathe, and I'm just going to work through this process from the mindfulness practices that my therapist gave me.
There
The
you
other thing
go.
that I do is I work out, and then I work out 3 days a week, so that helps as well.
Sound like Donnie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about what inspired you to write your book. So what would you feel is the most important message in that book?
One of the I guess the most important message, and this goes across all three books, is really to be a lifelong learner. Always put yourself in spaces where you're constantly and continuously developing yourself, whether it's in your career or whether it's for your personal well-being. I think it's something that we have to really focus on, is that self the development of self is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a talk probably about a year ago to a youth group, and I asked them a question: how many people have a smartphone? Of course, they all raised their hand. Then my next question was, do you have the latest operating system on your smartphone? They all raised their hand and said yes. I said, this is what you need to do for yourself. You need to make sure you have the latest operating system in your brain and in your heart for yourself, so that way you can learn how to navigate this world. You want to be
Right.
prepared for every obstacle that may come your way. And there are a lot of times where we're not prepared for those obstacles. Life happens, right? Things that come across our path in life hit us. We weren't ready for it. We're not prepared. Just like they say, nobody's ever prepared to have a kid. I don't care how much preparation you do, you're never prepared, because when it happens, it happens. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but when life happens, it's the same thing. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, it's very important to do your best to be as prepared as possible, and also understand that every experience that you have is a lesson for you. For at some point in your time, it may resurface and you'll realize why you've gone through some of those experiences, because it will prepare you for that next level that you need to step into.
Right.
So that's where a lot of the messaging comes into play for the self-help and self-development.
Okay. Was writing a book part of your healing process? I know you talked a little bit about that, and or was it more about like creating an impact, or both?
Well, it really was both. But for me, all three books really were about overcoming adversity for me. That's how it resonated for me. How it
Mm-hmm.
lands for the reader, it could land that way for them as well, depending if they how they take in the content. But it also
Right.
puts people in a space where they're like, you know what, this is a great book. These are great books for me to use to help develop my skill sets as I navigate life. But yeah, I purposely wrote those books for myself as part of the healing process, also
Right.
as part of me understanding the adversities that I've gone through in my life, that I made it through 100% of the experiences and adversities that came my way. And I'm thankful
Right.
for that, just not folding in under pressure. I've had some
Yeah.
dings and some scratches here and there, but I was able to make it through each and every one of them, and I'm grateful for everything that has come my way, whether it's a great experience, a blessing, or some type of adversity that has shaped me to be the person that I am today. So
Yeah.
it's really powerful for me personally. So that's what I
Okay.
enjoy about those books.
Good. Good. You said a key word there, grateful. It's so important to be grateful. That's everything. Just
Yeah,
being grateful for what you have, what you've been through, what you come through, what you have, just your family, it's just it's one of those things that really can send you to a different plane, when you're grateful for something. So yeah,
absolutely.
definitely good. So what motivates you today?
um seeing people successful. I think that's one of the biggest things that motivates me because, one of the things that I had to learn about myself is understanding my purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
just recently, I used to keep passion at the top and then purpose a little further down, but I had to learn how to flip it to make
Yeah.
passion on top and then purpose as pillars underneath of passion because I'm saying
Okay.
purpose over top, passion underneath, under different pillars. Because what I learned about passion is passion fades. And that can change over time where you'll be passionate about one particular subject or two or three subjects, and the next thing you know,
Yeah.
those have gone to the wayside. Now you're passionate about something else. But in those
Right.
passions, on top of that is your purpose, and understanding what your purpose is for me has been key to continuously driving forward and seeing the success of other people and helping other people get to the levels that they see themselves going. As a coach, as a mentor, and even as an author, that's something that I really enjoy doing, is helping people get to those levels that they strive to achieve. But yeah, it's just that's what keeps me passionate, which keeps me going and motivated. But even more on top of that is just understanding what God has for me. That keeps me motivated as well and inspired. And then seeing my family smile when things work out. That's
Yeah.
the key factor for me.
I really enjoyed that statement. I do understand completely where you're coming from. As a mentor myself, I get so much joy just seeing the people I mentor become successful or overcoming whatever it is that I'm mentoring them with. It's really a different perspective on leadership. It's not about you, because leaders eat last.
Right.
You want it to be about your people and about their success. And when they're successful, guess what? You're successful too. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So if you could talk to your younger self, what would you tell
So
them?
a few things. There's quite a few things that I would tell my younger self, but I guess the number one thing that I would probably tell my younger self is you're going to be able to push through everything that's coming your way. And
Mm,
it's just stay the course, take the time to understand what you're experiencing right now
mhm.
is for you to go through, not for you to try to figure out how to get out of it. Also putting yourself in a position where you need to be patient.
Mhm.
That's something else that I would tell my younger self. And I would also tell my younger self to, smile more, because I'm starting to learn how to smile more. But I think it changes things. And I
Yeah.
don't it smiling not only changes things for yourself and how you feel, but it changes someone else. If someone else walks up to you and they see you're smiling, it could be contagious and they'll start smiling as well. So that's something that I would tell my younger self, and tell my younger self probably not to take life as serious as I used to. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's really not that serious, and it really is, and it has its moments, but not all the time. But yeah, those
Yeah.
are some of the things that I would say to my
Have
younger
some
self.
fun. You
Yeah,
gotta have some fun. So yeah,
absolutely.
definitely agree with that. So what's next for you personally, professionally, spiritually? What's next?
Well, spiritually, growth continues is going to be continuous for me. Education is continuous for me as well. So I'm actually looking into a couple of different certifications that I'm looking to achieve. One is to become a certified coach. The other is to become a certified mindfulness practitioner. So those are some areas that I'm looking to explore. But outside of that, CP Speaks is going to be full-fledged for me. I'm going to be running that business full time, starting July 1. I'm pretty
Okay.
excited about that. Yes, I'm resigning. IBM, my last day at IBM is going to be Monday, July 30th. And
Oh, okay.
it's interesting because I never thought from my time entering IBM, I was like, wow, okay, I'm gonna retire from this organization. But I never thought the R word that I would use would be resignation. I thought it would be retirement. And it's kind of bittersweet because I had my last speaking engagement with the Pan Asian community yesterday,
Uh-huh.
speaking about polished perspectives, the keys to success, which was a great experience, something that was needed for not only for myself, but for that particular group, the career progression group that I was able to present to. And
Yeah.
it was well received. So I was happy about that. But yeah, I went out with a bang. So I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, so CP Speaks is full-fledged for me come July 1, and just going to work on getting more speaking engagements, working on promoting my books more, and
Yeah.
looking for more coaching clients, and education is key as well. So that's the other piece.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been a great. I'm so glad you were able to share this with us. And I hope everybody found it very insightful as I did. I mean, I think this was wonderful. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in and listening to this very insightful interview. I hope this information was helpful and you're able to utilize this discussion to your benefit. The Everyday Daily Real Adult Nonprofit Learning Organization has several other seminars posted on our website at www.tedranonprofitlearning.org for the everyday adult navigating through their life's challenges and processes. Please visit our website and take a look at all the resources to help you with understanding various situations and processes. And I just want to just definitely give a thank you and a shout out to Calvin for joining us. And don't forget that his book Polished, you can get that on Amazon. So take a peek at that. I think it's a good read. It's a short read, and my husband's read them, and he loves those books. So just want to thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Tedra. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me and speak and let me speak to your audience as well. It's been great.
Yeah.
I love the questions. I love the dialogue. So I really appreciate it and looking forward to working with you again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.